It is 11:03. It is Wednesday, June 12th. This is the meeting of the Governance Committee of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency. Following board members are here: Mr. Callahan, Mr. Pally, Mr. Rose, Mr. Strike, Mr. Trotter, Mr. Braun, and the quorum is present. Lisa,
So we
it's all
have,
yours.
we have a few items on the governance committee agenda to discuss with the board. And I didn't actually print the agenda, so I apologize about taking them out of order, but it doesn't really matter. Oh no, I did. Hold on. Oh, the first thing we have is minutes of the May 15th meeting. They were sent to everybody in advance of the meeting. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
Any corrections?
Second to Frank.
Any corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, I'm glad that I printed the agenda. The next item on the agenda is mortgage recording tax exemption. So as was discussed at the last meeting, we have received a request to not offer the mortgage recording tax exemption on all projects. Ames, will you, oh, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we discussed talking about some parameters of when we would and when we wouldn't, mostly so that staff knows how to proceed when we're in meetings with projects. So what we came up with, and this is just to start a conversation, is offering the mortgage recording, it's a partial mortgage recording tax exemption to projects, to 100% affordable projects, 100% affordable housing projects, to core manufacturing projects, to any adaptive reuse project, and to any project that's costs come in under $10 million, 10 million or less. Thoughts?
Marty, Mitch, anyone?
Well, I guess first definition, what's the definition of core? Cause I don't want, I think people need to know. And staff needs to know what the definition is gonna be. I just think we need to define that in some fashion.
Well, your true manufacturer. So, I mean, a lot of projects that we've had over the years are manufacturing projects.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. So if somebody was a kitting project, for instance, would we consider that manufacturing? It's a good question.
Right.
We could do it on a, in the gray areas on a case by case.
Yeah, no, I get it.
This is an internal policy. This isn't,
Right.
Right.
Right. The other issue that I have is, while I understand the 100% affordable issue, I think that number should be lower, especially if it's in an area where it does not have sewers. Because when you don't have sewers, you're gonna have significant sewage treatment plant costs. And which a housing development in a sewer area don't have. They could run $5, $10, $12 million. So I just think maybe we wanna give us some flexibility with regard to that in those areas where it would be helpful.
So you're saying 100% affordable housing projects and any housing project that is not in a sewer district?
Well,
that has
or
to create
yeah.
their own
well,
sewage
would have to
treatment
create their own sewage treatment plant. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Because the price,
Cost. It's a big
it's a big
cost.
cost.
plant? Yeah,
I
What
mean, if
would
you're
you,
in downtown Patchogue, that's one thing, but not everybody's in downtown Patchogue.
and what
in
do
that
you do in
regard.
a situation where the project is able to latch onto an existing
Well,
sewer district
well,
that's not?
if it's already in a sewer district
Mhm.
and it's not having to build their own,
Mhm.
I would agree. And in fact, the county at the moment is doing a sewage treatment plant capacity report,
Mhm.
which will indicate where capacity already exists in sewer districts in the hope that
It's not
that
being used.
capacity
and-
could then be
Mhm.
used for development projects, especially housing, and
Mhm.
especially with affordable.
Mhm.
But we haven't gotten that far yet. The county health department is still doing their thing, in that regard. So I'm hopeful that at some point that unused capacity could be made available, and in those cases, that's a cost savings, significant.
Yep.
But if you're not in that area,
Mhm.
and if you don't have a plant near you,
We gotta pay.
then you have to build your own plant, which is a significant cost. Just a thought.
Lori suggested we take a look at what used to be the SIC codes.
Yeah, mhm,
Now
yep.
the NAICS codes.
The
We've
NAICS
changed that a bunch of
Mhm.
years
Right,
ago.
right.
We'll look at that too. I don't think we're gonna finalize that today.
Mhm. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
The cards it out.
Yep.
Manufacturing.
The only problem with that is a lot of times, it depends how you look at the project, because we'll have a real estate rolling company that's not a core manufacturer, so we have to really make sure that we look at the
Oh, yeah.
Underline.
actual.
Mhm,
Right.
yep.
It also depends on how stringent you write it, you know, if you leave a little flexibility in there, then that would allow
you don't wanna
us
have
to say
exceptions.
yay or nay
Correct.
in a situation. So,
And it's an internal policy.
It's just a
so-
tool so you guys
Right.
know
Yeah.
what to say when somebody calls up. I mean,
But it also, while it's internal, we need to let people know early
Mhm,
that this is now the policy, so that they can make their financial arrangements
mhm.
and financing understanding.
right,
I'm either gonna pay it,
right,
or I'm not gonna pay it.
right. No, they need to know it.
Right,
So just to back up for a second, just in case everyone doesn't know. The mortgage in Suffolk County, but the mortgage recording tax in Suffolk County is 1.05% of your mortgage. And we can abate 0.75% of that. The 0.30 must be paid.
Mhm.
That goes to the MTA. So that's why it's a partial mortgage reporting tax. We can no longer exemption, we can no longer abate the full 1.05, we can only abate 0.75%.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we're talking about in this, just like way of background.
Why don't we try and frame this a little bit for the next meeting?
Okay.
A little bit more specific, and yet maybe flexibility, but if any of the board members or anybody has any ideas between now and our next meeting, please let Lisa know.
Okay.
All right.
The next item on the agenda is our uniform tax exemption policy, which sort of covers a few different things. First of all, how we want to look at the affordable and workforce components of our market rate projects. So as it stands right now, if you bring a market rate housing project to us, we require that you have 10% of the units at 50% of the AMI. And that's what we consider affordable. And 10% of the units at 80, I'm sorry, at 100, I said that totally wrong, just sorry. I have a little bit of a cold, so you guys take it out. Sorry, yeah, move away from me. Allergies, I don't know. 10% of the units have to be at what we consider affordable, which is 80% of the AMI. And 10% of the units have to be at what we consider workforce, which is 120% of the AMI. So I have two issues with that, just right off the bat. We said 10%. If you have a unit that's got an odd number of apartments, you end up with part of a unit. So do we round up? Do we round down? The projects always want to round down. I feel like we should round up. And so it's a little bit, 10% may have been a little bit too specific. We should either change the language in there to approximately or round it up or round it down or whatever, or just round it, and we could make a determine if it's 0.2 or 0.8, which direction we go. But the other piece of it, probably the bigger piece of it, is that we have had I found, which I said at the last meeting, that when we have units that we consider workforce at 120% of the AMI, the rents for those units are sometimes higher than the market rate, which is counterintuitive and seems counter to what we're trying to do. So I definitely think that the 120 for workforce is too high. What the town recently did is they moved their affordable to 50% of the AMI. And they moved their workforce to 65% of the AMI. What I think we might want to
Now,
consider.
how did,
Go ahead.
how does that, how do the two things relate to each other today? If a project comes in, which re, which ones do they use, for lack of a better
So-
term?
Let's just say a project with 100 units comes in,
Right,
they will owe the town 10% of, 10 units in this case, at 50%, and they will owe the town. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if the town does 10%. I'm not sure what their percentages are, so. Back that up for a second, but they do their percentage at 50% AMI, and whatever the percentage is of affordable at 85% of the AMI. Annette, did you want to say something?
Yeah, they do half of what we double town requires.
So it's
So-
5 and 5?
Yeah. It's half, workforce and half affordable at the town, but we double when we do a housing project.
Okay, so 5% of the units would have to be at the 50% of
Right.
AMI.
right,
Yeah.
5% of the units would have to be at
right, but here's my,
65.
here's my question,
Correct.
if they come here. Do they have to comply with all four requirements
Yes,
or only two requirements?
but if it doubles, if it's duplicative, they can count the ones, like, let's just say, just for argument's sake, that we end up with affordable at 65%.
Right,
Which is the 50% that they have for the town will count towards those for us. And then they would just have to do another 5% at 65%.
so, okay, so the town, the IDA requirements take into account the town requirements first. And if you meet the town requirements, you classify them as meeting the IDA requirements. That's basically what you do.
Right, we don't want to tell them that they have to have a total of 15%,
Right, I get it,
10%.
I get it, okay. Okay, I don't think there's any question, listen, there's no question that 120 makes no sense. I don't think,
Mhm.
you can't defend that, okay? The question is, how far below that do we go? Because as we all know, every unit gets subsidized by somebody. Either get somebody subsidized by county funds, in those cases where you get county funds, or they're subsidized by the market rate units to bring their rent up to what it's supposed to be. That also applies in instances where there are sewers and not sewers. All of these things relate together as to the cost of building housing on Long Island at the moment. And I think we should take all of those issues into account, knowing full well, we're gonna eliminate the 120. As I said, I think, I don't think anybody disagrees, the 120 makes no sense.
So what I was going to suggest, and again, it's a.
But can I just comment on what Mitch said? And another source of that subsidy is for the builder to reduce the profit.
Right, well, that's,
And that,
right, but that's a financing issue. Okay, it's not a question of,
You want to mention?
yes, the builder can reduce their profit from
Mhm.
10% to 9%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I understand that. The problem is not that. The problem is when they have to go for outside financing, which all of these projects require, the capital market is looking at not the builder's profit, they're looking at the subsidized units and the market rate units, because their first goal, of course, is to get paid back. And the number of subsidized units reduces the rate of return, not to the builder. Leave them out of the equation for the moment, but to the capital market who has to get repaid
The bank.
first, the
Mhm.
bank, the finance company, the insurance company, whoever it happens to be. So,
But I
Wow.
think going to Anne Marie's point, I think
Yeah.
we've heard of some rates that seem to be much higher than what we expected they would
Mhm.
be.
What we were told.
And I think that, and what we were told, and I think that's a concern that certainly we have.
yes,
We're providing a benefit And we expect that the person receiving the affordable housing is receiving a benefit.
And as,
And
and,
that's,
right,
you know,
and I think
just
we
in a
all agree,
nutshell.
I think we all agree.
Yeah.
But,
How we
That-
get there,
how we
I don't
get
know,
there.
you know, but
right,
we want to make sure we're there is the bottom line.
but I think that's our responsibility to some degree to make sure that the numbers that we put in, number one, make sense.
Right,
And number two, are defined enough so that somebody knows what they are.
Right.
And number three, we can enforce them.
right.
Well, that's
Okay,
the most- yeah,
because let's assume for the moment, we make a
No.
deal and they're supposed to charge 2,000.
Yep.
We all agree.
Yep.
And they charge 2,200.
Yep.
Okay, then we have to decide, okay, you're violating our financing.
Right.
And now we have to decide, okay, what are we gonna do about that?
Right,
And that I think, while that plays into this,
yes,
it
it
plays
does.
into the larger context of
Yes.
what do we?
There's gotta
do?
be a way for us to
Right,
enforce it. There's gotta be a
absolutely.
number that everybody agrees to,
Absolutely.
and that could be monitored,
Mhm.
you know.
We
Yeah.
do now require that all our housing projects have, a third party confirm 10% of the units
Mhm.
are at the, 80%, the
Mhm.
affordable rate, and 10% are at the workforce. So they're required
Right.
with their annual report to give us that
Because,
data.
because
from the third
in
party.
almost all cases, the state requires the same thing. So if they're getting state funding, which of most of these projects do,
Mhm.
they already have to have a third person or third entity certifier, for lack of a better term,
Mhm.
certifying these are the rents which are being charged to the percentage of people who are supposed to be charged that rent.
Right.
So
So I-
while we're not duplicative, we're conforming to that requirement.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So we have something to check.
We have something to check.
yeah, because I mean, I think that's key.
Yeah.
I
We
think-
also did get a letter this morning, which was co-signed by ABLI and Libby, to this point.
The numbers that I was going to suggest were that we move our work affordable to 50% of AMI and our workforce to 80% of AMI. The letter from ABLI and Libby requests that we go, we leave it at 80% of AMI for affordable and 100% of AMI for workforce. Now, I feel confident that if we got a letter from a different organization, they would say we should be doing 40 and 50, you know, we're gonna get
Mhm. Mhm.
reactions on both sides, you know. They just have to send the letter this morning, so.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we have to flesh out is what percentages how we want to define affordable, how we want to define
What
workforce.
is the county requiring at the moment? Or,
The IDA?
yeah,
I'm not sure.
because they have their own rules. I saw Kelly last night, I should have asked her.
I sat with her and didn't ask her.
I spoke to her yesterday and didn't ask her.
But I know they have their own rules.
So maybe we can bounce some of these things around a little bit more,
We'll do
get a
that.
bit, little bit more information.
And then come
You'll
back. with
provide
us-
those letters, copies to us.
And then come back with. a
One letter,
specific-
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
And then
and
come
well,
back with a
I thought you
specific
said-
recommendation.
two different.
Yeah.
no, I'm just saying, so this, we have to, this is a change to our uniform tax exemption policy, which means we will have to have a public hearing, which means that we will get a lot of letters, not just from
Yeah.
organizations,
Mhm.
school districts, and once you open it up, we're gonna get letters about stuff that we're not even really looking at. They're gonna suggest
Right.
other things, which is fine.
Right.
I
I think we should have a public hearing and, but I think it would be helpful to know what the county and the other IDA rules are. If
Mhm.
such places have rules
That would make
on
sense.
those issues, so we can have
That'll help
some,
guide us.
some
Yeah.
comparison data.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
We'll
that'd be
come
good.
back in July with that.
okay,
Okay.
fine.
The last piece to discuss is, spec warehouses. And since we were talking about our uniform tax exemption policy, I just want to let you know that our uniform tax exemption policy does not reference spec warehouse. The only reference to spec we have is speculative office projects. So we're silent on spec warehousing in our uniform tax exemption policy. Maybe we should put it in, maybe we shouldn't, I don't know, but that's, you know, we're opening up our UTEP, we might want to add it in. We also might want to just leave it as a standalone policy. But what we were sort of thinking about is instead of allowing spec warehouses as we have been, set it up so that at least 50% of a warehouse project has to have tenants or users in it when we close. And, we would want to make sure that the lease has some, substance to it. So maybe at least 5 years. I think most of them would be longer if they're renting a large space, but at least 5 years. And, make sure that it's market rate with the caveat that they might have to put some, introductory offers in to get people in or some, like, we don't want to box people out because they're actively trying to rent their space. So, and then maybe say at, 2 years after completion, they have to get to 75%, and 4 years after completion, they have to get to 100% rented. But something along those lines,
And if they don't,
Yeah, and what happens?
Right back.
we claw back.
Mhm,
okay,
okay.
And,
Mhm.
it opens up a couple of things because then job creation is gonna have to be prorated. There's things that'll happen. And Fred has an idea also. Do you want to talk about doing it in?
Talk about the project, these projects.
No, but just that concept. That if somebody is coming to us with 4 buildings, for instance, say to them.
Yeah.
You wanna say? it?
Sure. Why not?
How broad? She-
Fred, why don't you do it?
Yeah, we
I
had
tried to get him to do
we had a
it.
conversation with Barry and Annette yesterday, and one of the things we came up with, particularly when there are a number of buildings, and we obviously have one that's been teed up and talked about the last couple of meetings. But do something similar to what the Reckless did out at Bresky Airport. They had a master lease and then took each building as it was developed and brought that back into the fold. A little bit like we did with Tritech over at Mount
Mhm.
But you do one at a time. Lease this one up, move on to the next, lease that, and then move on to the one after that, rather than approve the whole thing, let them build 528,000 square feet, and nobody shows up.
Sounds like an idea.
Yeah. A good idea.
And we would give the project, obviously, they'd have the option to do that,
Mhm.
because they're not all gonna be multiple buildings.
Mhm.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
And maybe we haven't come up with specific percentages yet, what percentage does building one have to have occupied or tenanted? Or at least committed for that before you move on to, is it 50, is it 75, and then you go to building 2? Maybe they build it, all the infrastructure, the first time, with the first building.
Right, one would assume.
Yeah.
They would build all the infrastructure at once because of the cost difference. One would assume that, yeah.
So that's kind of what we're thinking.
Sounds good.
I like the thoughts because, it's, all of these buildings are, these storage facilities are on all our minds. So the more we bounce out, different options, we'll come up with the right solution so that we don't have these empty warehouses, and that we're,
Anymore.
right, I mean, we can't
Anymore.
build, yeah.
Right.
But we're trying to be proactive and I think that's a great thing.
must be
I
why
think we
he's
can
the
work
chair.
something out. I think it's worthwhile, because we're not penalizing somebody who has tenants, which is the point.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
No, no,
If they have tenants and they can get them over a period of time,
Mhm.
that's
we
good.
want them to come in and create the jobs that are necessary. We just don't want to have vacant buildings.
Right, that's it. We don't want to
So
be
let's
stuck.
try to find something in between, something that makes sense.
There's one other issue that we talked about briefly the last time, and that has to do with the concern that I raised about the wages that are being provided by the companies that take advantage of our UTEP. And I don't want to make a hard and fast rule. I don't think that that's realistic. But I would propose that we pay attention to reports, and there are any number of both academic and for-profit entities that provide information about what it costs to live in any one of the 5,280 counties in the country. One of the private sector, there's an academic group at MIT that does that. There's a private sector group called Best Places to Live. That group says that for a middle-class life in the town of Brookhaven in New York, a single person needs to make $80,000 a year, and a family of four needs $118,000 a year. And I recognize that those are not the salary levels that many of the companies that come to us, the warehouse folks and so forth, are prepared to offer. On the other hand, these are companies that are getting a public benefit. And if they are getting a public benefit, it does not seem fair for us to say, and it's fine for you to require your employees to have to get two jobs in order to survive. And I would present that as something that perhaps I can come up with something or work with others here to come up with something that we could bring in July.
So what, after our last meeting, I felt like the takeaway was that I was going to make sure that I highlighted the job numbers when I speak to the board. One problem with the way that we do this is that it's FTEs, so full-time equivalents. So we don't know there's 100 FTEs, they might expect to have
200 people
300
or something.
Yes,
Sure.
exactly. So we don't know what the, how that's actually gonna flesh out. They tell us an hourly rate or an annual wage. So we have.
Maybe we have to ask
yeah.
different questions. on that.
And we
Yeah.
maybe we need to
Deeper.
adjust the application. And I do think that there are situations where somebody isn't looking for, not even a second job, but my spouse is the breadwinner and their job affords us our life. But my kids are in school now, so I'm going to take a job so I can put them on the bus, work a few hours, take them off the bus. And I know those jobs will still exist. If the IDA doesn't support them, they'll still be there. But I just don't want us to back everything into a corner.
Into a
So it
corner, sure.
only, I think there needs.
But I
to
think
be
that, yeah,
a
I mean, I
range.
think to Anne Marie's point that, we need better information from them and probably looking at the application and trying to,
Tweak it.
maybe tweak that a bit and go a little deeper. We will be able to get some of that and, the other part of of those jobs is the construction jobs. And I think that's in many of the things that we're talking about, that's the bigger part of it, that's important. However, we're also concerned about that because the individuals that are working full or part-time at that facility, they're usually our residents or our neighboring residents, and that's the employment that we're certainly concerned about.
That's why they're
In
getting
addition
a
to the
10 or
construction
15,
jobs.
that's why they're getting a 10 or
Correct.
15-year abatement, not just for the period of
Exactly.
construction.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And-
So I think we get
145 that goes
more-
to the state labor
more-
departments, that's just FTEs, correct?
No, it's
It's got,
it's
shows part-time?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Full-time.
Yeah, my S45s.
Yeah,
everything's on.
Right, which is why it's not the best tool. for
Right.
us, Because sometimes you have somebody who goes in, works a day
Yeah.
and then never shows up again.
Yeah.
So,
Just wages, Fred, there's nothing else on it.
yeah.
No,
But I think you need something so that can be monitored better also.
Not sure though, if where you're headed is. We're trying to make sure that these projects have. A wage of X. And they show that it's gonna be Y. We push hard for that, in order for them to get the same rate of return. Let's assume it's a non-affiliated tenant. They gotta jack up the rent. In order to cover that, get the same rate of return they would have at a lower wage and wage. And maybe they can't get the tenant at that level, so I'm not sure how we
Yeah,
balance this out.
Yeah,
and nor am I.
I think I agree. The first thing we need is information.
Yeah. we
At
need
the
to have
moment,
more
we're in-
information.
Right, so I think we need to tweak or
yeah,
change what we asked
Mhm.
to get more pertinent
Right.
information, then we can make a decision
Right,
based on
because
that.
then when you have the applicant in front of you, you
Right.
can go deeper, but
Mm.
Right. If you don't know, you don't
know.
know.
Right.
Not to pick on this project, but I just happen to have it in front of me. What
Just
we
happened
currently-
to.
What we currently ask is the salary of the wage earners, the average commission wage earners, if, you know, if there are, sometimes
Mhm.
there aren't. Hourly wage earners, if there's 1099 and contract workers, and the average fringe benefits. And then the salary, because Harris requires to ask us this, so we ask it because otherwise we can't answer it. And I don't even really know what it means, but the annual, I mean, I do, but the annualized, or I don't know why we ask it because it doesn't really tell you anything other than at that one moment, but the annualized salary range of jobs to be created. So in this particular project, the salary wage earners make between $50,000 and $70,000 a year, and they have health insurance and a phone as benefits. And the hourly wage earners make between $20 and $25 an hour. And there will be separate and apart from that, there will be 110, they estimate, construction jobs created. So we do have that information in our application.
I don't know, I think we need to think about it a little more, what do we wanna get? And
We can change our application.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
easy one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Figuring
easy.
out the questions is the hard
That's the
part.
hard part.
Oh, you know what? Okay. So before I just shift gears one more time, I just want to let you know that I was just able to find out that the county requires 10% of the market rate, then a market rate project, 10% of the units to be at the 80% of the AMI. And they give enhancements, you give additional units or if you're more aggressive. With, you know, instead of 80%, if you say 60%, or instead of 10%, you give 20%. They don't do workforce, they focus on affordable, and they define affordable at 80%.
Okay.
But I feel pretty confident that's because that's what we did, and they piggybacked off us.
Also, they added handicap and veterans.
Yes, but the county requires that,
Mhm.
so that's already in, when they come to us, you're already getting that,
Right, if you're getting county funding,
yes.
if you're getting county funding.
Yeah.
Right.
So just
Okay.
the last item on the, not on the agenda, I had it on just a note to discuss it in the IDA, but it really is a governance issue. There were 3 bills passed in this most recent legislative session that have gone to the governor's desk that I just want, they're not yet signed into law that I'm aware of, but I just want to bring them to your attention. The first one is going to require a representative from labor and a representative from a school district to either a school board or a superintendent to be appointed to all IDA boards. So there's a couple of things that make that a little bit awkward. General municipal law requires that we have between 3 and 7 members. We have 7 members, so we're gonna add 2 members. So I was like, well, so are we just, somebody is leaving? And I've been told, no. 2 members will join, and when someone comes off just through attrition, we just will fill that position. One of those 2 people will move into that position. So we'll see if that passes. It's a little bit awkward also because I think it's awkward either way, but some IDAs have one school district. So it's obvious which school district they're going to get a representative from. But is it a conflict then for that person to vote on a project that impacts their school district? And for us, which school district are we going to get a representative from? Because we've got a lot. So just some things to think about, keep in the back of your mind. Assuming that this gets passed, there will be a little bit of a learning curve, and we're gonna have to get a bigger table and figure out.
And more
what we're doing.
importantly, the phase-in period, because the day she signs it, if we don't have a labor or a school person on our board, we're out of business.
I think they gave us 180-day,
Well, she hasn't signed it, so I don't know.
right?
They're on break now, right?
They're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
So they'll be back.
Well, they have.
No, I know.
They're gone now.
They're always back.
They negotiated with the governor. You don't have to go back to the Senate and the Assembly for that, do you?
Yes,
You do.
yes.
So that couldn't be done
If-
until
if-
January?
Well, no, if the governor, they could agree on amendments. But the governor could sign the bill and knowing that the amendments will be passed. But the amendments at some point would have to be passed by the Senate and the Assembly. At some point.
But those amendments are still effective with our signature.
No, those
No.
amendments are not effective with our signature because they have not been enacted
So
until law.
nothing can happen until next January unless they go back?
Well,
Go back.
well, they could, I mean, they could go back, obviously, that's one issue, okay? The other issue is the governor could sign the bill and everybody would agree that the effective date would be changed as part of the amendments and would not be effective until such time as the new chapter amendments are signed. That has happened on many occasions. So they have flexibility. That's assuming, of course, the governor wants to sign it in the first place,
Mhm.
which, you know, will depend on a lot of factors between now and whenever she gets the bill. Listen, she may not get the bill until December. Don't assume she gets the bill tomorrow. They pass 500 bills. They phase them in over every 2 weeks. They send her 20. Do the math. Okay? She could very easily get the bill in December. People think she gets them all tomorrow and it's got 7 days. No, that's not how it works.
Who
They
fills
have-
out the batting order?
Huh?
Who fills out the batting order?
Well, there's an agreement between the three parties as to which bills come first over what schedule. The more contentious bills are staved to the end,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of negotiating that goes on between now and then.
Give and take.
Get right, chapter amendments agreed to,
Mhm.
whatever it happens to be. So the more contentious bills get
Yeah.
sent to her later in the year.
I'm sure Fred and Dean will have a couple of comments about this.
I'm sure they will.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure they will, yes.
So
Not the
that's,
city, I don't give a
that's the
crap.
first one. The next one is, that IDAs, need to take in consideration the extent to which a project will provide on-site child daycare facilities. So, this doesn't mean that they have to have on-site childcare. It just means that we have to take it into consideration.
So we should
With it.
include it in our question.
Yes, we
On
have
our
to add a
question,
question.
ask the question.
Yeah, that's the long and the short of it.
Okay, yeah, well, ask the question.
If it passes,
If she signs, it, right.
seems a little bit, watered down, but. So there's that one, and then the last one is, private projects that receive brownfield tax credits are subject to prevailing wage and the 30% threshold. So basically, if your project is a brownfield and you got tax credits, you are part of the prevailing wage. You're in there, you have to use prevailing wage.
But they have yet to define, as far as I know, what goes into 30%.
Right,
Right?
I think they're
That's
gonna be counting it for,
I'm sorry.
that, I think they're gonna count the brownfield tax credits towards the 30%, so. As you're saying.
Right, so that
Inevitably to push you over.
they're counting the credit you get
Right.
as income, lack of a better term.
Right.
On the revenue side, so that when they calculate the 30%, or we calculate the 30%,
It's
you have a much
added to
easier
the
way of getting to the
benefit.
30%. I think that's the point, right?
But they haven't defined the rest of it.
They have not, but the board is meeting and is discussing projects individually. They are doing that. Regardless of the 30%,
at
they're
the-
doing it now.
At the project's request, so that they don't come back afterwards.
That's correct. That's right. That is correct. They are meeting and they're discussing individual projects.
Right.
So that's all I have
Backward, but
for the
that's-
governance committee. I don't know if anybody else has anything else.
Got a lot to chew on. We'll be back to you in July. If there's nothing further, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Right, quick question. What time did we post the IDA meeting for?
11:05?
Or
Yeah.
Dan said he thought he saw 11:05.
No, so 11:00 for the governance, 11:05 for,
11:05, not 12:05.
no, yeah.
So we're legal.
Oh, yeah. We always do it 5 minutes. It's-
We're good, Fred, we're good.
yeah.
All right,
You do not have to go to jail.
again.
Because I just said it, but it was in March.
That's for another discussion.
He's wearing his wife's system.
This- Mitch, did you, before we open it, I
Reese's
went to a
system.
meeting, ESD.
went to say.
All right, turn it off for a second.
Yeah, well, I'm all right, but I remember.
No,
going to
you would
school,
know better.
went to
Back on, Amy? Yes?
Yes.
All right.
Good.
It is now 11:44. This is Wednesday, June 12th. It's a meeting of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency. The following board members are present: Mr. Callahan, Mr. Pally, Mr. Rose, Ms. Scheit, Trotta, Mr. Braun, a quorum is present. First order of business are minutes of our meeting of May 15th, have been sent to everybody. We have a motion to accept.
So move.
Is there a second?
second.
Are there any questions or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Lori, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, included in your package is operating results for the month ended April. And it's comparing a budget through the end of April. At this point, as of the end of April, we didn't have any closings yet, but we subsequently have had closings after April. I just want to mention the annual admin fee is ahead of budget for the whole year, and that's because when we projected our budget, we didn't have all the closings project included. The other thing I want to mention is our expenses are pretty much under budget, except in the areas of advertising and promotion and certain other things, and that's just because we did some additional projects, the mapping project, et cetera, was in there. Overall, our investment earnings are ahead of what was projected. And that's the budget through the end of April. Are there any questions? I want to mention that as of today, all pilots have been paid, received by us, and we're in the process of doing the final disbursements timely. We do them, we follow a very strict schedule, so that's all in process. All payroll taxes have been paid and the related withholdings have been paid in accordance with the federal and state guidelines. All the regulatory reports necessary have been filed timely, and all payments, as mentioned before, for pilots have been made in accordance with state guidelines. Are there any questions?
Talk slow until Lisa comes back.
Oh. So that is where we stand as of today. Next thing on the road will be, we're starting to pull together the budget. In August, we'll probably have a meeting just to review that. That's the next thing.
And
yeah.
that's due November?
Yeah.
Okay.
But usually we get something out by September and get it posted and approved and, we see how much else I can talk about accounting. But
Maybe you could tell us how you managed to get our investment earnings to be $60,000 ahead of projected.
so it's
Right.
nice that we
Interest.
have the two banks. So I
Ah.
play one against the other and I'm like, well, they're giving us this and then they'll come up. But there is a concern. They do threaten me because rates are slowly creeping down again,
Mhm.
so. But we do use that to our advantage.
Well, you keep on threatening them too.
Yes, I still keep on asking the question.
And the Fed will probably consider reduction today, whether they do it today or in September. I think you'll get an indication
Yeah,
before the day's over. And guess what?
run out of accounting things.
Good.
Lori was very informative to us.
The next item on the agenda.
Actually, was there a motion to approve your report?
Probably not.
No.
Thank you.
No, I wasn't.
Somebody's paid a move.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nassau provision.
I said that we have a closing that came, yes,
Okay, good.
but it wasn't included in April.
Just mention what it was. So,
Oh, so we closed the Nassau Provisions project the other day, I think on the sixth. So that was actually our first closing for the year, so that was nice. And we actually have a few more that are teeing up and look like they're gonna close soon-ish.
That went into a building on Waverly.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It was a underutilized building on Waverly Avenue. They're keeping their current location in Islip. I don't know exactly. I do, but I don't wanna guess where their building is. I have a couple of streets running,
Boroughs,
but Furrows is what I was thinking, so. Okay, and Howard's nodding. They're keeping that building and expanding it to this building, so it's a nice project for us and for them. So the next item on the agenda is an application for RA Oak Run LLC. This is a proposed 74 unit over 55 rental townhouse project. It's on about 23 vacant acres. It's on the northeast side of Route 25 and Birchwood Park Drive. It's just west of Yaphank Middle Island Road, just for a frame of reference.
Is it Kogel lumber?
Well, that's where Calamandra is supposed to go
Yeah,
through,
no.
right about the same place.
Oh, okay, cause that's west of that road as well, I
I
think.
Correct.
think this is further west
Okay,
of, this project is west of Birchwood Park Drive. I think Salamander is east of Birchwood. Park
Okay.
Drive. So, but right in that.
somewhere over that way.
From the northeast.
Yes, but of the other road, it's further west. So it's approximately 100,000 square foot built with project with 37 buildings. They have included 10% affordable and 10% workforce at our current rates. They're going to create 1.5 FTEs. And I mentioned before, with salaries between $50,000 and $70,000. It's a $35.1 million project. They're requesting mortgage reporting tax exemption, pilot of 20 years, and a sales tax exemption. And Ben, did you want to add anything?
You said just about everything.
Dan, I just need you to stand.
Yeah,
and
sure.
speak. Sorry, thank you.
Make sure you
Am I
can
in?
see yourself. Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Good.
good now.
Hi, everybody. Dan Baker, attorney for the applicant. And apologies that nobody from the applicant is here. They're on their family trip to Italy. But in an effort to get this on, they were not gonna change their trip, but they did want to get this on the board's agenda. I think the only thing that I would add, because Lisa did say everything that I had prepared, is simply that, and I think it goes back to an earlier discussion during the governance portion of the meeting, that these types of projects cannot get done without the IDA benefits for a variety of reasons, but one of the most important being that these projects just cannot get financed without the benefits in place, particularly a pilot that is established and gives some stability to the project and the returns that the bank will look at. That mixed with the ever rising costs involved with a project like this, the interest rates that still remain high, and all of that make it imperative to have these benefits, or this project cannot move forward as projected. I would also just add a little color on the approval process from the town. It did require a change of zone to get here. That was already approved by the town board. Site plan was expected to be in place by now, but it has pushed off a little bit, I think, because of the change of how the town operates now without a planning board. The expectation is that site plan will be approved possibly July, but certainly hopefully by September. So it seems to work in line with our timing with the IDA, and it can hopefully all come together and this project can close. The applicant is the contract vendee and, needs all this to close.
Questions from the board?
Just one question. It said the pilot for 20 years. Is that common with us? Seems like we
No.
keep stretching
No,
out,
so-
stretching
so-
out, 10, 15, 20. Next is gonna be 30 years.
Marty, that's what they asked for.
Okay,
What we do in situations like this for a market rate housing project is that we have the applicant, we commission Camoin to do a study and they
Okay.
give us a pilot.
okay,
And what I ask Camoin to do is find the tipping point where the project stabilizes with minimal
Okay.
impact to the taxing jurisdiction.
Okay.
So they've requested a 20-year pilot. Our
Doesn't
new
mean-
step doesn't even allow for a 20-year
Yeah, okay.
pilot.
okay.
But it might end up, Camoin will do the study. They might say they need a 5-year pilot, they need a 15-year pilot.
Well, okay,
So just sort of depends on
what the study comes in.
the
Okay,
analysis.
So
all I got.
but all we're doing at the moment is
Accepting
allowing
the
that process to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what
Accepting
we're
the
doing.
application.
Accepting.
Yeah.
Accepting the application.
Right, all right.
And you want to.
So I need a motion to accept the application.
So move.
Second. Thank you, John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you all.
Dan.
Thank you.
Yep.
The next item on the agenda is actually 2 requests that we received from Sunrise Wind. They're actually identical, just to remind everybody, Sunrise Wind is the offshore wind project. And we have 2 separate projects with them. One is the cables project that ends in the converter station. And the other is the operations and maintenance building at 22 Research Way in Stony Brook. Setauket, Stony Brook, Setauket. And they requested the exact same thing for each project. I'll do them one at a time, but they're requesting consent to transfer the equity interest from Eversource Investment to Orsted Devco. It's the membership interest in Sunrise Wind Project Holding. So we could do this for cables first. That's the request that we've received.
So there's no other changes in the agreement other than the change of name.
The
Equity-
transfer of the
equity
membership
interest, right.
interest.
Right, but there's no other changes at all
No,
in our agreement.
which Eversource, I think we discussed earlier, indicated this probably 6 or 8 months ago, that might happen.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Need a motion to
So
that.
move.
Second,
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And we have the exact same request for the operation and maintenance building at 22 Research Way.
Same motion, I'll move.
Second.
Questions on that project? All those in favor?
aye,
Opposed? Motion carries again.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a request that we received from Yapek Energy Storage LLC. So just to remind everybody, maybe a year ago, we did a resolution that will, yes, you're welcome.
Yep.
That sort of requires projects to stay in touch as they're moving through the process from getting their application accepted to closing. And we put timelines on each stage. So Yapek Energy Storage LLC is getting close to one of those deadlines, and they written to us and they request an extension to hold a public hearing and close the project, push that out until May 1st of 2025. They're effectively asking for more time to get those things done. So that's the request that's on the table.
When does the clock stop ticking for them if we don't extend it?
August, I think.
And do they give a reason why they're waiting until
Yes,
May of next year?
yes. So they have they've been working with the state, and, a lot of this is out of their control, but the interconnection agreement and upgrades for the interconnection are still open. And the commercial takeoff agreement for the power generated from the project is still up in the air. if we hadn't put this resolution together, we wouldn't have thought twice about it taking this long. But we did put the resolution together and they're staying within the parameters that we built.
Can we move that?
Don't move.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just a sidebar about the pest system in my backyard. For the past
Oh.
5 or 6 months. A very contentious neighborhood has been objecting to one that was basically on the corner, just a little bit in from the corner of Route 25A. and And we all know that for these things to be efficient, and nobody's saying we don't need these, everybody says we do. But it's gotta be close to an interconnect, substation, so to speak. So, the one in Mount Sinai also required a zone change. A week ago, Monday night, civic meeting, and I go to most of those civic meetings. Dan Panico was there, and for the better part of 2 hours, he heard community. 2 days later, the town board took an action. Agreed that they would not take an action to rezone that property, so essentially it was killed.
Who owned the property? Yeah, right, that was gonna,
Real estate agent right there, Menzone.
oh, right, okay.
So this was his retirement package, but it's not, should happen, but it's not gonna happen.
And I will, if I was a betting man, I would tell you in the next session of the state legislature, they will take the zoning powers away from local municipalities for these things,
On those things,
because they're having great difficulty and not just, I'm not talking about this
Yeah,
specific item.
All over, yeah, they keep talking about it, yeah.
And because they're having great difficulty in citing them. It's a requirement of the state that they be cited and that they be part of the climate change legislation. And I have no doubt that, I'm not arguing about this individual one or any others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Collectively,
I saw that. I was-
it's gonna be a problem.
Mhm.
Right.
And the way they're gonna change it is, just like they do with Article 10, you're gonna take the zoning power away.
which takes an act of the
State
legislature
legislature.
and a signature of the governor.
That's correct.
So Ray could still be in it.
That's good.
Just gotta wait a year.
It's been waiting for a while. I'm sure he doesn't wait, mind waiting another year.
Now, maybe this one doesn't happen no matter.
Yeah,
other
no, I
reasons,
know, no.
But I just have I have that feel. I'm watching the tea leaves.
Yeah, but they do have to be by one, and there's a substation right there.
Yeah, and so it's 3 schools right there,
Yeah, no, I know, yep.
so. But anyway, that's a sidebar. So
Anyway.
back on the agenda, sorry about that.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is 3 requests that we received. These are all identical for the Mac Solar LLC, Holtzville Solar LLC, and Mastic Beach Solar LLC projects. Again, like the last project, they came up against the resolution expiring. They actually missed it by a day, called me in a panic, should get me a letter, with 3 letters in this case. So in this, they're requesting a 6-month resolution extension. And they're also asking for a 30-year pilot, which would be coterminous with the town of Brookhaven lease for each of these projects. So, I think we're gonna have to do, Terrence, tell me if you disagree with this, but I think we're gonna have to do a new public hearing if you guys wanna do a 30-year pilot, because it's a deviation, I think, from our UTEP. I think we'll probably just do a new pilot, a new public hearing anyway, but two separate things. I think if you want to, we should extend their acceptance resolution, and then if you want to, we can hold a new public hearing to have their pilot go for 30 years. Terrence, did you want to add anything?
No, I think that's right. It's, yeah, because of the new benefits, you're gonna have to, you would have to hold a new public hearing and then authorize in July if that's what you wanna do. But then that regardless, that they would need the extension of their current authorization.
So we piggyback public hearings, one right after the other.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
What was the pilot we're giving them now?
Since it's on town property, it's a zeroed out pilot.
Oh, okay, all right,
Because there's nothing's being paid currently.
gotcha, so, okay, so it's like a wash.
We need a motion on MAC Solar LLC.
Lose the money?
Second.
You know, bitch.
Second. All those in favor?
Oh.
Opposed? Similarly, a motion on Holtzville Solar LLC.
So move.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries on that one. And last, Mastic Beach Solar LLC, similar.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is MDS Building Ventures. Just to remind everybody, this is a project in the Shirley Industrial Park. This is a company that makes corrugated cardboard. They are building a warehouse to augment their main operation, which is on Zorn Boulevard. And their completion date and their sales tax is about to expire on June 30th. And they asked for an extension of their completion date and also their sales tax. They have indicated that they do not need additional sales tax allocation, but only need additional time. They have asked.
Why
for
the
an
additional
extension
time?
I'm sorry?
Why do they need the additional time?
Uh,
I have watched this project and I don't think I've ever seen one go this slow.
That's
I mean,
why I'm
the
asking.
Builders, you know, as you know, I've built other buildings in that park. I don't know what's materials. Financing, I have no idea, but it is taking forever to put this thing up.
And they, you know, when they originally came to us, they give us an estimate. They're only asking until the end of August. So it's not,
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
they're
fine.
close to the end.
I suggest we go to December.
Yeah.
I can't see it being done by August.
So what, instead of doing it twice, give until the,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think, I even question December, but let's go that far.
So what do you want to give?
Until
Until
December.
Till December.
December 31st of 2024.
As long as it's moving forward.
Oh, it is. It's just
Slow.
very slow.
They paved the roads out there yet?
That's a good question. And I asked.
Oh, I thought maybe you would know already.
Field trip.
It's in the budget and it's supposedly being done. My question, I don't have the answer is, are they just
When?
putting a layer on top?
Maybe in
Are
the
they doing
fall.
it Right, grading it,
Okay.
you know, it should be done.
Okay,
So keep your fingers crossed.
maybe we're on the next bus tour,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about doing another one.
Another bus tour.
This,
Yeah.
this will be an example of how not to do a project.
Well, maybe by the time we get out there, the roads, you know,
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, motion.
We need a second still.
second.
All those in
This is to
favor?
go to December.
Yes.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The last item on the agenda is an update to a resolution that we passed a few years ago, which allows, as long as we have 4 members, a quorum in person at our meeting, we can have members join through, I'm gonna say Zoom, but electronically and vote. And we put together the resolution that says effectively, if you have an emergency situation and it's approved by our chairman, you can join by Zoom. That expires, that resolution, the law expires in July and they just recently re-upped it. And so we're not 100% certain that we need a resolution extending it, but we figured doesn't
Better
hurt
to have
do
it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the resolution that's on the table.
They extended it only for 1 year.
I'm sorry, they extended it to 7/1 of 2026.
6.
3 years, okay.
So we should adopt the resolution for the same.
Yes.
Second.
Oh,
All those
Oh,
in
you
favor?
could have it.
You want it.
She's already typed it. You're in
Yeah.
it, right?
You gotta take credit.
All in favor?
That's
Was that
it
all
for
in
this
favor?
end of the table. Yes. it was.
Okay,
Anybody have anything else?
I have,
Go
a-
ahead, Amy.
what is our official meeting date? Is it the third Wednesday or the second Wednesday?
oh, it always moves around because of holidays, so we're closed next Wednesday because of Juneteenth. So we had to push up.
And making sure we get 4 present, so
Mhm.
we can have a meeting.
Mhm.
And that changes from time to time too.
Yeah.
When is our July meeting is now the 17th? That's what I have, July 17th.
I have the
Oh,
11th.
sorry.
Oh, that's, I'm glad we.
Glad you asked the
July
question.
17th.
I had 17.
I have 17, and what'd you say? She had
I
11.
thought I had 11. I do have
I
11.
have 17.
I'm not gonna be
Okay.
here.
The calendar on the website has the 17th.
Yeah.
Okay, that must be true.
17.
Mitch, you good?
You got four?
I'm good.
Frank,
Yeah,
John,
Yep,
Anne Marie?
yep.
Okay.
Any chance
I mean,
we could
I'm-
move that to the morning?
yeah, that would be good.
Okay,
17th?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
How
would be
early?
great.
5.
No.
7:45.
I'll be there.
In the old days.
Yeah.
10 o'clock,
8,
8?
oh, wait,
8?
9? I could do 9.
School's out. Well, we were looking at you about the kids getting them on the, you know,
So we're sure
we
it's
do
9
take
o'clock?
this into consideration, Lisa.
8:30.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
9? 9's fine.
9 o'clock on the 17th.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
Terrence or Howard, anything else? at
Could
your
I,
end?
I have a further question about that.
No.
And if we have the LDC meeting, we'll schedule it at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. And the further question is that, because of my great Quakerliness, I am a member of a committee for the American Friends Service Committee, and I made the mistake of not being at the last meeting, which
They
was when
volunteered
the,
you.
they volunteered me for meeting on the third Wednesday at noon. So could we have some of our meetings in the morning?
I think most people like morning meetings.
Mhm.
Felix does not.
How does it work for you, Lisa, with
Yeah,
getting
with
the
the-
kids on
Yeah,
the bus?
it's your issue.
It really depends on the day. I would love to say that my children are mature enough to get on the bus on their own.
What
I'm a
time do they
realist,
need to
so
get on the bus?
They get on the bus at 8 AM. I could be here by 8:30. Doesn't leave me a lot of time to
Or how
like,
about 9 AM?
I do certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what 9 is,
Yeah, that's just as good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That looks like early meetings.
that would be fine.
So we're gonna move to breakfast.
Yes,
Oh,
Omelets.
bagels.
an omelet table.
Good.
There you go, John. John, watch what you say, John. You'll always be bringing bagels.
We can do it in the morning, I'll bring the bagel.
All right, so are we moving our meetings to 9 AM going forward?
That's
This is,
fine.
but this is gonna be a problem for Felix. He's not here to represent himself.
Well, I think you gotta go to major, I mean, well, I'm not,
Well,
Yeah,
we'll deal with it.
well, yeah.
Okay,
So 9 o'clock? But the first, July 17th is the first one at
Is the
9
first
o'clock.
one
That
at
we
9
know.
o'clock.
yeah, so then we'll take it from there.
17th,
17th,
17th at 9 o'clock.
And
Anne
then
Marie,
we'll,
the
We'll take it from
university's
there.
got a new person from outside the university in charge of economic development. Do you know that person's name by any chance?
I don't.
It's Kevin something. But I don't know the name.
oh,
Yes, very good.
it's not in my memory bank, but it is written down, so I will get, and I will arrange a meeting.
Yeah, we should get.
I don't-
Yeah.
the only other problem with having meetings at 9 AM is we can't have a public hearing prior to a meeting. If it becomes a problem, we'll do
Don't
it.
worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully the day before.
Any further
Okay.
from anyone?
Rest of 2 days. in a
Oh,
row.
Andrew, got anything? You're good? All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
You're done. Thank you.